Today we have Ira Cornelius on the show. Ira actually founded a payment processing company, PayCompass.
I have over 600 clients in my portfolio in Phoenix alone. Why I got into it in the first place is because of the residual income. Residual income buys my time back, right? In the beginning, it's a pain in the ass. That's building the network, that's cold calling, setting up the systems, integrating with softwares, doing all these different things that we did to figure out how to go from going out and getting the business to switching it to coming into you. If you want to sell off the portfolio, you're going to get 30-50x whatever your monthly is.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. Today we have Ira Cornelius on the show, and Ira actually founded a payment, or was one of the founders, co-founder, co-owner of a payment processing company, PayCompass.
Correct.
Which Ira, I mean, I was reading some of your stats here. I mean, you have a network of over 200 nationwide agents. PayCompass has processed more than $3 billion, US dollars, I would imagine, right? Mm-hmm. Not pesos. Across 4,000 different accounts. I mean, you've done some pretty big things, and you've been in the industry for 11 years.
Correct.
I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about, too, because I don't know if you know, but I used to own an ATM company.
Yeah.
So I want to do a deep dive on payment processing and how all of it works and how you got to where you're at and how, you know, maybe somebody out there can aspire to do the same. And I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's an impressive setup. I like it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, I know we just built this one out, actually. And you saw the other one, too.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, dude. So, talk to me a bit about how you got into the world of payment processing. I mean, I know you were an agent at two big companies. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, two other companies.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm still an agent here too. So I have my own portfolio, but owner as well. So one of the founding agents at PayCompass. But to step back, over 10 years ago, I started out in banking at Wells Fargo. So I was, 18 or 19 when I started there. Started as a teller, personal banker, and then went into business banking. And business banking is kind of what opened my eyes to the merchant services world. Because my job there was to basically, somebody comes in, they got to open a bank account. We talk to them about all the different banking products, merchant services, payroll. And I just remember sitting there wearing a suit and tie, and I was just like, this sucks. Dude. I'm getting paid $35 grand a year. I'm here 6 days a week. Bankers' hours are not great. I don't know where they came up with that. And I just remember all the business owners coming in, and they would come in their nice cars. They're going to the lake on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, dude, this is not for me. Yeah. So I started, talking to the merchant services guys, and they had somewhat of a similar lifestyle where they could come in, they'd sign a deal, and then they would leave. And I really kind of liked that aspect when I was younger. So I jumped ship and went to a company called Heartland Payment Systems, and that was my first 100% commission W-2 sales job in the industry. So I'd never done outside sales before, didn't really know what I was doing, didn't really even know the term cold calling at the time. And this is when I was 21, 22. So I went there. I worked my way up to one of the top 5 sales reps out of 4,000 people at that company. Yeah. Was there for about 3 years until it sold for $4 billion to Global Payments. After it sold, the CEO, Bob Carr, left and started another company called Beyond, which was kind of like a spin-off of Heartland. It was almost like a Heartland 2.0. And that's where I jumped ship to think that I was getting in on the ground floor. I could buy in a bunch of stock. I was like, this is going to be it for me, I'm going to work my way up with this company. So I did that, and that was not the case whatsoever. Yeah. Worked there for about 3 years, and then my business partner now, Justin, who was my first manager over at Heartland, we decided to leave because it was just going in the wrong direction and start PayCompass. So it was me, him, and a couple other guys, and we literally started out of his bedroom at his house in Ahwatukee, and we had one service person, which is Beth. But thank you, Beth, you're the best. And then myself and a couple other agents, and I don't know really what the idea was in the beginning. I knew we just didn't like what we were doing. And we had, a concept in our head of how can we build this thing out the way that we want to without all the control that all the other people have. Right. And 5 years later, we have over 250 active agents. There's about 300, but 250 active agents. We're doing about $6 billion a year now in transaction volume. So the website needs to be updated again. Okay. And then about 7,000 customers nationwide. Wow. So we've grown rapidly. I think a lot of it has to do with, all the people all these companies that keep getting sold in our industry, Beyond being one of them. A lot of those people that were over there left, and when the company sold, and they didn't, have any of their promises fulfilled like they thought we were going to in the beginning, A lot of them jump ship. So literally in this past year, we've almost doubled in size just because of that alone.
That's crazy.
But yeah, man, it's been a good journey.
Yeah. Describe for anybody watching and myself, what is fundamentally, right? If you were talking to a fifth grader, what is payment processing?
Yeah. So payment processing is anytime you go into a store and you pull out your credit card or debit card for purchase, you're going to use that at a terminal, right?
Okay.
Or a point of sale or something. So credit card processing, that's exactly what it is. So any business that, has customers coming in to buy something from them needs to set up a merchant account.
Yep.
And it's the other side of banking. You have two different sides. One side is the issuing side. So banks work with Visa, MasterCard, and Amex Discover to issue cards to customers like you and I, right? When you open a bank account. And then you have the acquiring side of banking, which is what the side we're on. So when a customer goes into a business and they swipe their card in there, we need to set up the merchant account for them so that they can acquire the payments, right?
Got it.
So simply put, any business that needs to accept credit cards, that's what we do is we set up the merchant accounts for them.
And traditionally, how do payment processors make money?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, is it interchange? What is it exactly?
No, payment processors make money. So essentially, to step back a little bit, how the industry works is you have the card brands, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover, and then you have the banks, right? And the banks, like I said, they issue the cards to customers like you and I, and then the payment processors come in because the card brands don't process payments. So they're on the side. They work with the ISOs like us, where you do independent sales organizations that acquire the merchant accounts. So to provide the service, to provide the technology, to all of those different things, set up the merchant account, we charge basis points.
Okay.
So a basis point is 1/100%, right? So it's the same. It's just a financial term. So we do basis points, monthly fees, and transaction fees.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Have you seen a lot of the TikTok videos and Instagram videos right now? There's this one guy, I think he's in Congress, but they're like hounding these like Visa, MasterCard, I think is what they are. And he's like, what's your profit margin,
Yeah.
And they're like 50%. And they're like, what's your profit margin? She's like, north of that,
Yeah.
And he just chews them out. I mean, just, what do you have to say to that? Like, when you look at like that side of kind of the world, but that really isn't your world. That's the other side though, right?
Towards the card brands. Yeah. Which I think is great because they're just gouging people,
right.
Like business owners pay so much money in interchange, and for the normal person out there, interchange is basically the rate that's associated with the card that you're using for purchase, right?
Okay.
And it's set by the banks. So the banks are the ones that are making all of this money, and the card brands are also making all the money. We're making a little bit on top to provide the service, right? So if you're a small business, you're doing nothing but paying customers reward points all the time. That's all it is. So the card brands and the banks have been raising these interchange rates periodically over the past 10 years to where it's gone to over 3% for most businesses, 2 to 3% somewhere in there, depending on the card type. So I think it's great that Congress is going after them because they're really going after the card brands and the banks to stop gouging people, right? Which is now why so many customers or businesses are starting to pass the fees along to customers because they're done paying all the rewards points. You can only go down so far in the markup until we're gone, right? So it's like, but they're still unhappy with what they're paying, which is all their customers' reward points, especially for high volume merchants. So I have no problem with it all. I think it's great, and I hope that it does lower it down because it's going to be a big break for small businesses.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
When most business owners, like a small business owner, they set up shop, they got a coffee shop or whatever they're about to open, where does your average American right now go, or your average business owner, to get payment processing? Like, traditionally, who do they call typically? I mean, obviously, you want everybody to call you.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, when we're looking at, the last 20, 30 years, like, what company do they call?
I think a lot of them are going to go to their banks, right? So just like in the last position that I was in when I first started in banking, they're going to go to their bank and they're going to set up merchant services with them, and they're going to set up payroll with them because it's kind of like the one-stop shop.
Sure.
But what happens is over time, businesses outgrow certain services that they have because they either need a better rep that they don't have with their bank. They need better pricing. They need better equipment. They need something integrated with their ERP system. So they kind of evolve out of it. A lot of people moved over to Square too. So a lot of people just knew Square because they marketed the hell out of the company and everybody knew about it. E-commerce companies went to PayPal, stuff like that, because it was such a large company, you know, that everybody knew about it. But once again, people outgrow those processes, right? And they end up doing their research and finding somebody like myself who can really come in and give that white glove approach, right? Where it's like, hey, let me sit down with you. Let me understand your business. Let me figure out the things that you actually need. And then we put that package together and put it there. And then anytime they have a problem, they just call us, right? It's very simple business.
Sure.
Yeah.
And how are you able to charge less than a lot of these big companies? I mean, how does that work? Why couldn't anybody just come into the market and say, hey, I'm just going to charge half, what everybody else is charging?
Well, they can. I mean, anybody can come in and charge half. It's like any industry, right? Like you can get a car, you can go to a car dealership and get a quote from somebody on a 4Runner and then go to the next Toyota dealership and they're going to say, yeah, I'll beat that, right? Yeah. And traditionally, that's what it was for so long in our industry. But I really believe that what business owners want is a good relationship with their processor, somebody that's not going to put them in a contract, somebody that's not going to raise their rates on them, because most of the time what these merchant companies do is they'll lock somebody in the beginning, then they'll raise their rate over time with, over 6, 9, 12 months. And then they're stuck in a contract for 5 years or so. And they're like, how do I get out of this? Well, you can't, So they just don't want to be jacked around with anymore. And that's, a huge differentiator.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What's the average, would you say, maybe not for you guys, but just across the board, that a payment processor makes on every credit card swipe, for example? Or does it vary?
It varies so much, because there's so many different factors into it. So, e-commerce is going to have different interchange than like a retail store does. Bars and restaurants have different interchange than like an auto shop does, right? So the cost changes so much. It also depends on average ticket size, right? So if it's a QSR, like quick service restaurant, they're going to have smaller average tickets. So we're probably going to end up doing a transaction fee rather than basis points. But if it's big volume customers, we're doing basis points over transactions, right?
Got it.
Transaction fees.
What's the difference between like physically, installing, giving people a credit card machine, and then a company like Stripe, where correct me if I'm wrong, they're mostly on the internet, right?
Mainly e-commerce.
Mainly e-commerce.
Yeah.
What's the big difference there? Do you do both? Are you doing e-commerce and, brick and mortar, or?
I do everything, yeah.
Okay.
So I have over 600 clients in my portfolio in Phoenix alone. I have, I'd probably say 60 to 70 e-commerce clients, pretty large ones. Even like Shopify customers and stuff. And then I have a lot of retail customers, power sports dealerships, car dealerships, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. But there's a big difference. Like I said, it all really boils down to, once you have the conversation with somebody, you figure out what they need, and then you can just implement a product. Like at PayCompass, we never wanted to reinvent the wheel whatsoever. We wanted to grab all the best vendors and partners that we possibly could and condense those down into one company, and then give you that white glove approach service that is missing from this industry and so many others alike. Yeah. It's like you want to call somebody to get something done, right? And you get outsourced to some other country, right? Because they wanted to go cheap on it. It's such a pain in the ass to go through that. Nobody wants to do that, right? Yeah. So you just bring the fact back that we have US-based customer service, and then somebody that you can contact. Dude, it changed the game.
Changes the game, yeah. What is your opinion on a company like Stripe? I know that they're I feel like they're controversial a little bit. Yeah. We use Stripe. Yeah. I've actually been shut down by Stripe several times in several different companies along my entrepreneurial journey, you know. And I'm sure a lot of people watching can attest to that. Anybody watching, I think, that has done any sort of education or high-ticket coaching or anything like that. Yeah. If you get 2 refunds, they shut you down. You know, they're without any warning. They're just like, hey, screw you, what do you think about that?
I think Stripe has wonderful technology, and it's hard to beat their technology. We have stuff that's similar.
When you say technology, do you just mean user interface, or what do you mean?
Just their APIs and stuff. It makes it very easy. So developers love Stripe because of how easy the API is to use. But there's a ton of other companies that have the exact same thing. It's open APIs are not anything crazy. The problem with Stripe is they have a backwards underwriting process. So if you're a business and you sign up with Stripe, all you're doing is filling out a form, and you're getting instantly approved 99.9% of the time with Stripe, right? The problem with that is like you said, you put in the wrong information on the application. Let's say you put your average ticket was $500 and your high ticket was $10,000. But you have average tickets of $10,000, what that's going to do is flag a risk audit, right? And because it flags a risk audit, they're now going to hold your money without telling you, or shut your account down, and you have nobody to contact to get your money back, right?
Yep. 'Cause they're
so this
massive
happens
company.
all the time. If you look like Stripe shut my account down, right? You'll see hundreds of thousands of people that have already gone through this process just because they have a backwards underwriting process.
Wow.
So the difference is from Stripe to somebody like ourselves. So I get a lot of people moving over from like Shopify, right?
Yeah.
Shopify is white labeled Stripe. That's all it is, Shopify payments. And the same thing happens to them where they get shut down. E-commerce companies without credit cards are not a company anymore. You can't run the company, right? So they come to me and like, hey, dude, Stripe shut me down. They put me on the match list or the blacklist. I have helped people get off of that by paying off the debt with them, and then also getting Stripe to take them off of the blacklist. But then when we set up a merchant account for them, we're asking all the right questions to actually look at what is your business actually doing. Is your average ticket $500 or is it $5,000? Okay, if it's going to be $5,000, we need to look at your financials. We need to make sure we have money in the bank account. We got to make sure you got good cash flow. We need to look at your chargeback rate. All these different things. We put that package together. We send it into underwriting up front. Underwriting now knows what's going to happen with your merchant account, so there's no surprises. Guess what? Your account doesn't get shut down.
Totally.
So that's what I mean by people outgrowing it, is they get to a point where they're like, dude, I can't operate my business like this anymore. I don't have somebody to contact when I have a problem. We come in, save the day, and set them up the right way.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder why Stripe did, I mean, I guess just to grow fast. Why did they implement
It's because they're
that?
a PayFac. So what a PayFac is, a payment facilitator. They essentially handle their own underwriting and own risk. So they make it as easy as possible to get approved. But that comes to bite them in the ass later on, because now they're trying to manage risk after the fact when they should be managing it up front. But they don't have the staff and the underwriting power to be able to do that. Plus, it would turn people away from the ease of use and actually onboarding with Stripe. So I think they're more of a company like, let's throw it all against the wall and see what sticks. And then if the things don't stick because they're causing us grief, we're just going to shut them down, right? But because it's so easy to sign up with, we're just going to keep rolling the way we are. Square does the exact same thing. They have a backwards underwriting process, and it's like people just outgrow that because it doesn't fit with their business.
Right. Who owns Stripe? Did they sell at some point?
I don't know. I thought it was Jack Dorsey owns Square, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know if
he sold Twitter, right?
Well. He sold Twitter, yeah.
Okay,
so he was part of the Square group of people.
Got it.
I don't know who owns Stripe.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, dude, I've had a lot of problems with them over the years. So we'll have to talk, at some point. We do a lot. The thing is I only really process payments in the education world. Yeah. Or like the media company. Yeah. Because I own all these different companies, but most of them are real estate, right? Right. And so we're not processing any payments, where it's a real estate deal, but the education world is a difficult one. What are you in that world at all? Do you work with?
Yeah, we do a lot of coaches and stuff too, online coaches. The problem with that is there's a lot of guys out there that are really shitty coaches. They're scamming people.
Tell me about it.
So that's the issue. Is it's like, I don't want to name any names or anything like that, but there's a lot of people out there that we could all probably do, and they're scamming people, right?
Totally.
So they're scamming people. The chargeback rates are through the roof. We don't want to take on that risk, right? But there's legitimate coaches out there that are, trying to teach people about things that they need to know, and they're not doing anything sketchy. We can do that, no problem, as long as they have the financials and they show that they don't have a crazy chargeback rate. Right. And even if they do, we have options for that. Like we can do reserves, like a 10% rolling reserve, or we could take some cash and set it aside. We can attach it to a line of credit, just so if there is a loss, we have something to fall back on.
Talk to me about that, right? Like the chargeback world, and like why does Stripe, who does that affect, right? Like who does that negatively affect for the person watching? Like maybe you got an education guy watching and his chargeback rate's 5% or whatever. Like what do payment processors not like about that? I'm sure they're losing money, right? Like when that happens.
It all comes down to loss. Yeah. Because if essentially customer buys something from you, right? They don't like the product. You don't give them a refund. They call their bank and do a chargeback. You don't have the money in your account. We're on the hook for it now.
Got it.
Because the bank already gave the customer their money back, and now you shut your account down. We're on the hook. Right? So now we're out $10,000, whatever that process was. So that's why they don't like chargebacks, because it's just a loss.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes total sense. The way that you overcome that, like you just said, is just have cash reserves or a rolling cash reserve payout model.
Yeah, there's so many ways to mitigate it, and it's usually just a lot of the coaches will require some sort of reserve for the most part, unless they have just a substantial record of no chargebacks, which I just don't think is possible in that industry, because you're going to have somebody that just didn't do anything with the information, said, Austin, stuff didn't work for me, you know?
We get that all the time, right?
Yeah.
So coaching is not how I make my money, you know, like to be very clear. I've told people that on the internet a million times. I actually got into coaching like within the last like 18 months. So I built huge real estate companies before I ever became a coach, you know? And I don't even know if I'm going to keep coaching for the next 5 years. Like I have a love-hate with coaching. You just said it, right? Like you can give somebody the world, and a lot of times they're just not happy.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are, don't get me wrong, right? And that's the side of it that is good, right? The good side is like the people who they literally reach out to you, they're like, dude, you changed my life. Right? Like I was, bussing tables, and now I closed 10 wholesale deals or whatever, right? And I made $500,000. You know, like we get that type of stuff. That's what keeps you going, right? But a lot of times, you bring people into the world at a very cheap ticket. I mean, we're talking about pennies for the amount of knowledge and education that we're giving.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, it doesn't work, right? It's like, well, no, you didn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You didn't do anything with the information.
You didn't do anything, you know? And you lose the dispute every time as the educator, right? Like basically 10 times out of 10, if we get a dispute, we'll lose it. Even if we provide all the evidence in the world showing, hey, we gave them everything in the world that you could possibly ask. Yeah. We'll lose that dispute. Now we obviously have money in the bank account for it to, so we've avoided getting shut down on some of the newer stuff that we've done. But dude, I mean, it's crazy, man. Yeah. It's a crazy world.
It is. And I think the chargeback process is archaic too. Yeah. Like they need to change it. And I think there's a ton of legislation trying to come out there. Like even the process of like going through a chargeback, you have to fax shit in.
Right.
You have to fax it in. You can't email anything.
I don't even know how to fax.
It's like, I don't know either. I don't think anybody has a fax, dude. Maybe an e-fax, probably not accepted, But it's like that. And then, I mean, we have a couple other processes that we've built out at Pay Compass to basically like modernize it, to make it a little bit easier and get in contact with the customer faster. But most of the time, dude, it's a letter. It's like a letter that comes in the mail, and when you get the letter, it's past the due date for you to fight the chargeback. So it's like, what do you do with that, right?
Literally.
So we try to really help out with that stuff. I hate it, honestly. I fucking hate chargebacks, but I do it for all my customers all the time. It's part of the game. Yeah.
What's your favorite type of industry to service? Like as a payment processor, do you have like, it's like, I love coffee shops, or I love, like, do you have a particular business that you just love working with?
Car dealerships.
Car dealerships.
For
Interesting.
sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years.
Dude, huge volume.
And why is
low ticket? Well, they're doing a lot of service. So, I mean, service, parts, and then down payments on cars.
Wow.
So people are putting it up to, you could do, it depends on the dealership. They're all set up differently, but they're really big volume. They're really low tickets. They're usually just terminals. So it's a very easy deal for me. And they're no maintenance.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so crazy, because I never even thought about that. Yeah, you can put a down payment on like a credit
6
card.
Months ago when I started getting into
Well, the
them.
service makes sense.
Yeah.
And all the parts and all of that.
Well, car dealerships used to have to go with their banks because the banks would give them discounts or whatever on the rates that they would be able to offer their customers for financing if they used all the different banking products, right? So dealerships were just off the table for me for a long time. Well, ever since COVID, the rates all went up like crazy.
Right.
So they're moving away from their bank's merchant services, which have been screwing them forever anyways. And now they're moving over to like surcharging or dual pricing where they're passing the fees along to the customer. So they're in a position now where they're not paying the fees, or they're paying way less, maybe 70% of what their total merchant bill was. You're talking about, places that are doing $4 or $5 million a month in processing, Yeah. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And do you like working with the big dealerships or like the little ones?
Yeah, no, I've got some big Chevy dealerships, Kia dealerships, and a few other ones like that too. I've got some power sports dealerships as well, like big KTM, Husqvarna dealers, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
For somebody who might be watching that either eventually wants to do what you do or do something like what you do, maybe they just want to be an entrepreneur, like, I feel like all industries require you to do what I'm about to ask you. So what would you recommend to people to land such a big client in really any industry? Like when you look at a car dealership, I'm sure at one point in your career, you just kind of said it, right? You were like, oh man, like I'm not even going to bother, like it's almost nerve wracking. Like I walk into this Mercedes dealership, who the hell do I talk to?
By that place and be like, no way am I ever going to walk in there. And who do I talk to in the first place,
So who did you talk to, and who do you recommend that people talk to if they're out there trying to land a big client? Because in any industry, right? I mean, I've interviewed power washers that have, commercial accounts where they go every 2 weeks and power wash the Starbucks drive-through.
Yeah.
Right. How do you get these big clients, and what do you recommend?
I mean, a lot of it's going to take time, right? Because you got to build out a network for yourself. So just like you've done here, you're omnipresent, right? Like you'll have a reel pop up on Instagram in front of somebody, your YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, everything, right? That's what I've done on an organic level in Arizona as a whole, right? So it's really helped me over time get in front of these people, in front of them online before I get in front of them in person. But a lot of it is, if somebody's starting out, they're doing a lot of cold calling, right? So they're going to be pulling doors. They're going to get told to F off throughout the day. They're going to get told you're the 7th guy in here today. It's annoying. Merchant services, people call all day long to these businesses. So my recommendation for somebody is get active on social media. Something I've done over the past 4 years, 5 years is really get heavy on Facebook. So Facebook groups are huge, right? So like the Swip Swap markets, like the small business owner ones are usually scams. It's all Etsy people in there and stuff. But like the Swip Swap ones, or I'm really big into motorsports, right? So like I've been going to the dunes my whole life. I ride moto, I had side-by-sides, the whole thing. So I got really active in like the power sports community. So I kind of niched myself into those businesses because it was a commonality that we could talk about. But then there's a lot of Facebook groups with hundreds of thousands of people in there. And it's like you can go in these things and you can post a simple post like, hey, who all in here is an entrepreneur? If so, what do you do?
Right.
And you'll just get loaded with people. It's the owner, Facebook profile with their business. Bam.
Boom.
Add them as a friend on Facebook, right? And then they see that you have 25 mutual friends. They're going to add you right there. Then you start interacting here and there, right? Doing a little bit of social networking with them like you're supposed to.
Sure.
And then one day you walk in there, oh, dude, what's up, man? I've been waiting to meet you, blah, 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 rather than, who the fuck are you? Why are you in my business? Get out of here, So I've done that, and that's really helped me a lot with getting into bigger places because I can strategically start adding them as friends on there and kind of like, not in a creepy way whatsoever, because we have mutual friends and we'll run into each other at parties, at the gym, around here, around there. But it really helps with like getting past that trust barrier of like, I'm never going to talk to you. Oh, my daughter, or so-and-so, or this too. Yeah, maybe we should have a conversation.
Yeah. What would you say the hardest part about scaling the company thus far has been? Is it employees, hiring, scaling, building systems and processes, and getting clients? I mean, if you could narrow it down to one thing, what's the most difficult
systems
thing?
And processes for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's making sure that we have the bandwidth of people to be able to support the influx of new business coming in. We really struggled this past year because of how many people came over from the past company.
Sure.
Because we didn't have enough support people. So it was like, commit to all the salespeople first, figure out the support second, right? And it was causing some frustration, but it was short term, and it was forced growth. So we did end up like growing, and we got a massive support team now, and then all of our infrastructure and everything in our office in Tempe. So we have a 17,000 square foot office in Tempe off of Ray and the 10.
Cool.
And it's full. So now we're like,
no way.
Yeah, it's full, dude. We have 40 full-time employees in there. So
wow.
From sales coordination to service to our executive team to the media group to our podcast studio, like we've got it all in there now.
And you don't go to the office very often, do you?
Never.
Yeah.
I'm out there to go pick up terminals and stuff, but that's about it. So, and I had a little office over here at the at Kierland over at Industrious, but I literally just ended it today. So,
got it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I want to talk about like more of that stuff here in a little while, like of, your personal life. And cause I watch all your stuff, I feel like I feel like we've met a million times, but we really haven't,
We met a long time ago with Josh.
I know, with Josh Zuniga,
Yeah.
What did we go to, that one bar, I think?
It's like
that
one bar, dude.
Yeah.
We were at a pool party.
That was a weird bar, yeah. Josh is doing good. I texted him, by the way.
He's killing it, yeah.
Good for him. He's such a good dude.
Yeah, you got to get him over here. Huh?
Yeah, dude, we got to, bro. I know. I was texting him about something else, and I was just seeing how he was doing. Well, I think it was what I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
I was looking for a team, like somebody out in Peoria,
nice,
that could help me. Before we go down that rabbit hole, you said a little while ago you have 250 agents?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is an agent exactly, so I can wrap my brain around it?
It's all like a real estate team, man. Not much different. So you got agents out there that are merchant agents going out and acquiring new business, 1099, all of them at different splits depending on how active they are. So really, it's very similar to a real estate team.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I mean, at what point did it go from you being the guy or your partner or whatever to you bringing on agents because essentially they just replaced what you did initially, right? Like if you think about it like me, like I was an agent for a long time and I sold houses, and now I very rarely sell houses. I mean, if you called me and you wanted me to help you, I would help you. But other than that, I don't do real estate anymore, right?
See, I'm still really active all the time. So I have a few agents working underneath me, and my percentage of Pay Compass is a smaller percentage, right, as the owner. Justin is really the one that's running the entire ship and hiring all the agents, right?
Got it.
So because him and I have known each other so well, I was like, dude, I'm not coming in here without some sort of ownership, right?
Right.
So I've really helped facilitate some larger agents and brought them over. So my goal is to not hire like your mid-level agents, right? My goal with this is to bring on the guys that are doing. They got a residual portfolio that's paying them $200,000-$300,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Like big dog guys that are like, they're established. They've been around for a long time. They've been at Card Connect forever. They've been at this ISO forever, but they've been jacked around a few times. Here's why we come over, right? So as somebody who's like an equal to those guys, right? It's easier for them. It's easier for me to have that like commonality with them and say, hey, dude, this is why I came over here and built this over here as well. I'm also an owner of the company. This is why you should come over. Don't do that with them.
Right.
You don't have any trust with those guys, right? So that's essentially what I've done is I try to bring like the big top dog agents in, and then all the other guys really go through our sales coordination team.
What does the day in the life of an agent look like a high producing agent?
Well, I wake up at 7:30 every day.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not a 5 a.m.er.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I am. I can't operate like that. I usually wake up and I go to the gym every single day. I'll look at my calendar first thing in the morning just to make sure I have the time. It's usually planned the day before, but I'll go ride my dirt bike in the morning from my house. I'll go ride my mountain bike. I'll go to the gym and take a class, usually done by 11 o'clock. Start working from 11 to, depending on the day. Some days are different, but this is like a general day. Usually from 11 to like 2 to 3, I'm having phone calls, different appointments, either out and about, calling service people to go do some things for me. And then I'm usually home by, 4 o'clock sometimes, depending on the day. Mondays, I coach my son's football team. He's 5 over at CCV. So I'm there at 5 o'clock. And then Tuesday, he has jiu-jitsu. So I'm doing the jiu-jitsu with him on Tuesday. Wednesday's a free day. Thursday it repeats. And then we have football on Friday. So
Got it.
I'm in that season of life right now, dude, where it's like, and that's the beautiful thing about this business, man. That's why I got into it in the first place, is because of the residual income, right?
Sure.
Like I was in a position before in this industry where I was just getting checks every Friday. I was always working for the next check, and it was exciting. Like it keeps you hungry for sure, but I wanted the cash flow. Like I know that like residual income is how you buy your time back. And I've always been a big fan of that. I said, I don't always want to be working for the next check because this is going to burn you out eventually, right? So I looked at all the different business models out there, and it was like, all right, you can do this in insurance. You can do this in a few other things. You can do it in real estate, but gosh dang, does it take a long time to get any substantial cash flow from owning real estate? So I was like, this is it. This is the one that I believe that it is. It's a great financial model. You can build residual income pretty quickly with the right ISO. But then you also have portfolio equity, right? So you get to a point to where, you want to sell off the portfolio. You're going to get, depending on your relationships with the buyers, 30 to 50%, right? 30 to 50x whatever your monthly is.
Wow.
So they sell like SaaS companies, dude.
Yeah.
They sell great. It's a pretty simple model. It's not like, it's not anything crazy. Like I didn't want to do something that was overly complicated. I'm somebody that wanted to buy my time back so I could do all my hobbies that I have, and spend time with my family, and then also be able to travel as much as I want, but then know that like I'm building something that I can sell. And once I sell that, we start dispersing into other industries, buying out existing businesses, getting into real estate, all that stuff.
Super cool, dude.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that in a minute. What affiliation have you ever had with like the ATM industry? And the only reason I ask, I used to own a couple hundred ATMs. Yeah. I don't own a single ATM anymore. I got out of that business model. But have you ever worked with any ATM guys?
I've never done it, dude. No,
Really?
I've talked to a couple of guys. Yeah, because I'm part of a Facebook group is like ATM sales professionals or something like that, just to like dip my fingers in there.
Sure.
But all those guys are doing processing now.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
It makes sense.
They're all their own
If I was
ISO.
doing him, I would do the same. If I was doing that, I'd do the same
My
thing.
mentor, he has his own ISO now too.
Does he?
Yep.
Yeah.
The guy who mentored me in the ATM business.
Yeah.
And he's been in the game forever, dude. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the ATM guys, bro, they've been, it's like the good old boys club.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for 50 years.
Nobody gets into it anymore.
Nobody.
I was surprised that you guys did.
Yeah.
Because you were way younger at the time, weren't you?
Way younger.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it was just, it looked sexy and we made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But our problem is we got to a point where scaling it was just too complicated.
Yeah.
Like the actual ATM model. Now you can, diverge, and I guess we probably could have got into like payment processing and stuff like that and went down that rabbit
That
hole
wasn't
like
on
you.
the radar at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just like, okay, we were just in the actual ATM business, right? And cash is a really big problem. And I'm talking like security. I'm talking, dude, me and my buddy, we bought a Toyota Prius.
Yeah.
And like we were loading probably at one point, just me and him alone were probably loading over 100 ATMs. And we're driving around with like $500,000 in $20 bills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At any given time. Like that's a lot of $20 bills.
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that much
You
$20
should be in a
bills.
Brinks security truck,
Yeah,
dude.
dude.
Yeah.
So we literally drove to San Francisco, and we looked at buying a armored car company.
Wow.
And like that's how close we were to like rocking and rolling, because it got to a point where the banks, they wanted to deliver all the cash. We couldn't go to the bank to pick up the cash anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, it's a security. You're not allowed. They're like, we need the armored trucks to come to you.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I don't really want an armored truck rolling up to my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't really think I want one rolling up to my office.
Yeah.
Like if people see that and they start catching on to that, like that can't be very safe, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so it just got to be very complex. And I'm like, man, how do you actually scale it, right? And you hear the horror stories of the people that, are driving around with $250,000, and even like the police will pull, like I've heard stories of like cops pulling people over, and then they take they confiscate the money. You don't get it back for 3 years because it's under investigation,
Right.
And you're just out $500,000.
Yeah.
So I got out.
Yeah, I can imagine it's hard to scale a business like that,
Very
because you
hard.
got to have employees and all the cash, the risk and everything.
Dude.
It's like you're loading those ATMs, on an every other day basis or
It
something
depends
like
on
that?
how much they're being used.
Yeah,
but a
I
lot of
guess
them
it
you
is.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Some of them will go a month,
Yeah.
2 months, if you put the right amount of cash in them. And you look at every ATM. We use like, are you familiar with like CDS, Columbus Data Network?
Yeah.
So that's where we would like look at everything, right? It was actually ATM One, and then we used Liberty Payments out of New York for a little while. But you look at it and you say, okay, this ATM is doing, 50 transactions a day or whatever. And the average, and then a lot of it depends on where you're at, depends on, like, for example, if you're at, let's just say a strip club, okay?
Yeah.
The average withdrawal amount will be way higher than, let's say, if you're at like a gas station.
Right.
Which is actually not a good thing because you're making $3 or whatever you decide to charge.
Yeah.
Whether they take out $20 or they take out $300.
Yeah, it's just a flat fee. Yeah.
Right. But if they're taking out $300 on average, then your ATM runs out of cash way
Be
faster.
filling that bad boy
But
up
you're
all the
making
time.
the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So you're actually better off going to places that, have a low transaction amount
Right.
on average, but it was a complicated ordeal.
Yeah, I can imagine it's probably super saturated too.
Super saturated.
Yeah, because it's like once somebody already has an ATM in there,
Yeah.
how are you able to even switch it out to another ATM
Totally.
company? Are you giving them a kickback? Are you like, how does that work,
Well, and cash too, and the final straw I think that did it for me was I'm like, dude, I just don't know for sure how long cash is going to be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll in theory be around for a long time. I've heard all the arguments,
Right.
I get it, right? But with the rate of the technological advancements and cryptocurrency and all the different things and credit cards,
Yeah.
and everybody's got a credit card nowadays, and how long is the $20 bill going to be on planet
Cash
Earth?
even it's not even accepted at some places.
That's what I'm
now,
saying.
which is insane.
Which is
buddy,
wild.
one of my best friends is a cash guy. He's a real estate auctioneer, and he's an appraiser. Has a ton of cash all the time. Always at the restaurants, got cash, and like every place we go into where they don't accept cash, he flips out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, listen, man, credit cards are the way to go. It's like
For
always
sure,
giving
dude.
him stuff about it, but
Yeah.
it's crazy that people, because banks are charging now to deposit
Totally.
cash.
Yeah.
Like you go into a bank, it's like, oh, you can only do so much cash. I'm like,
Yep.
what is the deal with this?
Yeah. You can't pull out cash.
No.
Dude, if you go to the bank right now and you try to pull out $100,000, they won't give it to you.
No, they won't.
They don't have it.
No, they don't.
They don't
everybody
freaking have
thinks
it.
working at the bank that we had so much money in those safes, dude. They don't have that much money in those
No,
safes.
dude.
I remember the first time I saw $100,000 working at the bank, and I was like, oh, it's only like this
Yeah.
big. It's not that much
Right.
money, dude.
Yeah.
But we only had like $300,000 maybe with a line
Yep.
of like 20 tellers.
Right.
So it wasn't that much.
No, it's not that much
Even
at all.
when I actually got robbed at gunpoint at the bank one time.
Really?
In 20th Street in Camelback. Yeah. I was sitting there with somebody, two ladies. They're opening a bank account. I see the guys come up. They pulled their mask, just like a movie, dude. Pulled their mask over their head, pulled out 357 mags, big old chrome bad boys, dude. And they come in and say, everybody get on the fucking ground. That's
No
what they
way.
did. I was like, dude, what? I can't believe this is happening. So I got down. The guys jumped the thing. We didn't have the glass over there.
Yep.
They went and stole everything but the die packs because every tiller has like a $20 wrap, right? And it has a die in it. And it'll explode if it gets too far. They didn't get it. So I think it was an inside job and they left. But, dude, they only left with like $3,000.
What the hell?
They went through all that because there was no cash in there, dude. There's not that much cash at the bank.
What happened after that?
I didn't have a button on my desk. I was looking for the button, but I didn't have one, dude. Nothing. They got away. I have no idea what happened. They don't tell us.
But, I mean, did they interview all of you guys?
Nope.
Really?
They didn't even interview us. They came, like, they sent us all home, shut the bank down, and that's it.
What happened to your job after that? You went back to work?
Well, I quickly was quicking. I was going to quit after
walked
that.
away.
Yeah. I was
You're
like,
today's
this is not
my
worth
last
it, dude.
day.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
But no, I worked there for I switched branches after that because
Okay.
that one had been hit multiple times.
Got
Then they shut it down. I moved to another branch, and then they had the glass put in on the thing.
Gotcha.
There hasn't been one since. I don't
Sure,
think.
of course.
I mean, this is, I don't know, 12 years ago. But
Yeah, it was a little bit.
It was intense, dude. The ladies in front of me, they stood up, they hugged, and then they sat down and were like, can we still open our bank account? I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Like,
Oh, my gosh. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
yeah, dude, I'm leaving, dude.
Yeah,
that
that's
gun in your
wild.
face didn't do anything to you?
Right.
Yeah.
I have another pigging back, and then we'll go back into the personal stuff.
Yeah.
Talk to me about American Express. You know, you see a lot of people don't accept it, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, if I go to Costco right now, I can't use my Amex.
Yeah, well, they broke the relationship with them,
Okay.
so that's why they don't use it anymore. They have a better relationship with Visa now, but Amex originally used to be very expensive to accept for small businesses because they just set their own flat rates. They don't have like a standard interchange model like the other card brands do, like Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. They just have different tiers. So
Got it.
those used to be very expensive for small businesses to accept. Also, you used to have to go direct to Amex to get a merchant account set up only to process American Express.
Wow.
And those rates were well over 3%. They're usually around like 3.5%. So that's why anytime you used to go into a small business, they were like, we don't accept Amex. It's too expensive.
I feel like they still do that a lot.
They do, and those guys need to be talked to because there's a lot of programs now. So
Yeah.
Amex came out with a program called OptBlue, which is for processors like ourselves to be able to handle Amex processing. And it's usually not for anybody that does over $1 million a year, but they don't really audit it that much. So we put everybody on it and we handle it. We can price it like all the other card brands, right?
Interesting.
So Amex is actually a lot cheaper than some of the more expensive Visa and MasterCards out there now. But some of the older businesses that say we don't accept Amex because they got an old ass merchant account. They don't know anything about OptBlue.
Totally.
Which let me know. We'll send somebody in there.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of card guy are you? Are you an Amex guy?
Amex, yeah, I got the Amex Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
love
put everything
Amex.
on it on the business.
Dude, I get freaking an unbelievable amount of points.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how, I mean, like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, the last couple of years, I'm like, dude, like, I mean, I'll have, like, January, I'll spend all my points, right?
Yeah.
We'll go travel the freaking world. And then by, like, April, I'll have 1 million points already.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is a wild game. I
It's
never
totally
really
worth it.
understood the point game.
Yeah.
Do you ever travel and stuff on points?
I do a lot.
Yeah.
We use it all the time.
Dude, I gotta
even
connect
when we
you
go
with
to
my-
like Newport, we just get out
Uh-huh.
of town for like a week or something like that. I'll use the points to book the entire place. We stay
Really?
at like Newport Coast Villas with the kids, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll just use the points to book it 7 days.
So cool.
Yeah.
I got to connect you with my points guy.
Yeah, you should.
He can, like, stretch your points and make them do things that you wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah, connect me with him.
Yeah.
Is he the credit card points guy?
He's one of them. Yeah, there's a
couple.
couple big Instagram guys. I don't know if it's the one you're thinking of. His name's Travel Like Tommy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
I
a
don't
cool
think
dude.
of him.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, like we flew when we went to Dubai. Like we were Emirates first class. Like
Yeah.
you know, unlimited Dom P. I
How was
mean,
that?
unlimited caviar. It's just dude. I mean, I actually don't recommend you ever do that until you're ready to only do that.
Yeah.
Because once you do that, it's real hard to get on a Southwest flight and
Oh.
fly from here to Dallas.
100%.
You know.
Even like flying JSX.
Yeah, dude.
Like you fly JSX, it's almost like flying private in a
Literally.
way, right? You know,
Yeah.
you get on that thing, it's like
Especially because it's right here.
Right here,
You don't
dude.
got to go all the way to Sky
It's
Harbor
so nice,
and
dude.
deal with all that. You valet your car.
Yeah, you valet your car, you go in
Yep.
there, security's just like the two little things you walk through, and that's
Literally.
it, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even first class on like American too. Like I remember it was like a few years ago, I went to Tulum and we flew first class there, and I was like, oh, this is
Dude,
way better.
yeah, it's wild.
Every time on a Southwest, and this sounds pretentious, but
Sure.
it's like Southwest, it sucks.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah, you
totally.
get stuck in the middle,
Yeah.
you know, because you're in boarding group C60. You're the last one, dude. It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
it's something to strive for, you know.
Yeah,
but
for sure,
the
dude.
Emirates thing, I made the mistake by being a cheap ass and not flying first class to
Okay.
our Italy trip because it was just my wife and I, obviously, and I will never do that ever again.
And you should have just used points.
those seats are like this.
I can't even imagine.
On those flights.
And what is it,
I'm like,
14-hour flight?
Yeah. And it was 14 hours of flew to Paris. And I'm
can't
telling you,
even imagine.
I'm 5'9",
Yeah.
you know, like in shape, 180 pounds. But like, if I was anything bigger than
Yeah.
that, you can't sit in those seats,
No.
you know? And I don't know what it was with those planes that are a little bit smaller, because
Yeah.
Southwest, you got a lot of room in the seats, you know?
Sure.
But these ones, and I'm like, dude, this was miserable.
I would hate my life.
I took a Xanax to try
Yeah.
to fall asleep, and I was up partying, dude.
Yeah,
I was
dude.
like, I can't sleep on this thing.
I'd be
Like,
drinking beer after beer after beer.
I tried, dude, but then I was just up talking to everybody.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I got to connect you with my guy, because he'll take your points, and he knows like when to book what.
Yeah.
And depending on like, you know, these guys is all they do, right? They're in that business, you know, and like he's like, oh, you want to go to, you know, Italy. Okay, cool. You need to take a connecting flight from Phoenix to Houston, and then I can get you on Air France from Houston to like, and so that's called like a positioning flight, right?
Yeah.
And so he'll position you to be able to take that long leg in first class or
Yeah,
whatever,
that's
you
nice.
know. Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
next
cool.
time I'm just not going to be a cheap ass. I'm just going to book it.
100%,
yeah.
bro.
I'll save the points and just do it too. But yeah,
But it's
it was
expensive.
It was like $20,000. It was like $20,000
Yeah.
just, or $25,000, I believe it was total, just for one way.
Yeah. Per
And we had-
person.
and that was per person. So
Yeah.
it was like $50,000
For one way.
dude, for one
Yeah.
way. And I'm like, I'm healthy. I can sit in this seat. It'll be all right, dude. Like, it's not that
Right.
much, but and I walked through it too, and it was like, okay, I get it. It's nice, but all you're doing is laying down.
Right.
You're just paying to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, $50,000. I'm like, I'd rather spend that on jewelry and a Lamborghini when I
Right.
get there. You know?
Literally,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So it was, I still am at the point where I'm like, I'm trying to justify the purchase. I'm like, $50,000 one way.
Right.
If that
I
was
would never
round
pay
trip for the
cash.
whole thing, dude,
Yeah.
that's different, you know? But like,
I
my
don't think
buddy
I could
did
pay
that.
cash.
He had a bunch of points too. He owns a big media company, and they went to Italy for a wedding, and like, you know, his wife, one of our best friends,
Yeah.
like, we go first class. He's like $30,000,
Yeah.
you know, for this. Like, I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't
So
do it.
he used his points for it from his business card from his Amex Platinum
Yeah.
that he has, and it paid for the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couple more questions. So how did you get to a point as an entrepreneur where, you know, for people watching, I feel like a lot of people strive for that freedom, right?
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Every entrepreneur I've interviewed, I read probably, 300 people or so. And I've been interviewed by a lot of people. I've had billionaires sit right where you're sitting, right? And I feel like everybody gets into entrepreneurship to gain freedom, right? Like ultimately, because anybody who says, oh, I just want to make a lot of money, it's like, well, why do you want to make a lot of money? If you start peeling back the onion, what you'll find every time is that everybody's doing it for freedom.
Yeah.
They want to be able to do what they want to do, when they want to do it, with whoever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want, right? But what happens a lot of times is people get into entrepreneurship and they're actually less free than when they were working like a 9-to-5. They're actually more shackled to their thing that they've now built, the machine that they've made, you know, than they were previously. Now they have to, it's no longer a 9-to-5. It's, you know, a 5 to 9, and they're going home at night and they're still thinking about it and they can't turn it off. Where you just said a little while ago, you very rarely go to the office. I watch your stories all the time, right? You're hanging out with your kids, you're hanging out with your family, you're riding your dirt bike, you're having a good time. I'm not saying you don't work hard. You totally do. But I just mean, what did you do that clearly so many entrepreneurs fail to do that changed that for you?
It's a great question, and it's loaded, so the answer is going to be long. But I think the biggest thing is you got to really know, like this sounds cliche, but you really got to know why you're going into this. And then you need to match that up with a financial model that's going to be able to accomplish what you want, right? So for me, I knew that like when I'm older, I will grow a large company with a ton of employees again, and I will be the main owner of the company, right? Because I'll have the time and my kids will be older, right? But at the season that I'm at in life and when I started, I knew that I didn't want to be the guy that was just, this is my favorite quote, and I think I put it in the thing. It's don't sacrifice your family on the altar of ambition. Pastor Ashley said that actually at my church, and it hit me because I've done the same thing, right? So being in business, like I have, you know, billionaire clients, right? I've got guys, $100 million guys all the time that I'm sitting here BSing with all the time. And what I find is like the commonality between that is that these guys have sacrificed so much to get to where they are. And I've studied it across the board from different podcasts and books that I've read and people that I've also done business with or am doing business with. And I started to collect the data, and I'm just like, do you want to go down that path of like you're working all the time, right? And you're getting to a certain number, whatever that is for you, right? Or do you want to figure out a way, and I know this is controversial, but to balance all the buckets in your life and still have substantial growth in every single area while not sacrificing one of those buckets completely, right? So this is why I got into this industry, because it's, like I said before, residual income buys my time back, right? In the beginning, it's a pain in the ass. The first 3 years sucked ass. They were terrible, right? So that's building the network, that's cold calling, setting up the systems, integrating with softwares, doing all these different things that we did to figure out how to go from going out and getting the business to switching it to coming into you, and then hiring, managing staff to be able to do those things. And now you're just getting your portion of it, right? So I've done that, right? I've put in the work over the past 10 years to build out these systems to buy all my time back, just in time for me to be a dad to a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my wife that's been staying at home, I freed her from corporate America because that was our plan a long time ago with this business model, right? So in the beginning, it was understanding that, am I going to get to a place with what I'm doing now to sell this company for, my portion of it for $100 million? Probably not, right? Is that the goal in the beginning in the first place? No, because I see the guys that do that. I know the guys that do that stuff, and a lot of them are miserable. Not all of them, but a lot of them, right?
Most of them.
Yeah, most
I would
of them
argue.
They're very miserable because guess what? Their wife divorced them. Wife's gone, right? Kids don't have a relationship with them, right? It's like, how many more examples do I? They're unhealthy.
A lot of them are unhealthy.
Unhealthy, dude.
They're alcoholics.
They're drug addicts. They're doing all these things, right? So it's like, why would I go down that path when it never ends well? Ever, dude. And then you see the interviews of those guys, right? It's like, what would you do differently? I wish I had a better relationship with my wife. I wish I wouldn't have sacrificed time with my kids. I wish. So I have realized that for me, it's never about like getting to that big ass number, of $100 million. Maybe later on it will be after my kids get older or something like that. And I'll be in a position to where like I'm getting into real estate and building out different portfolios, right? But right now with what I'm doing, I'm living in the good old days of processing. My kids are only going to be young once, right? And I didn't even really want to be a dad. But then when I became a dad, dude, it completely changed my perspective on everything. It was just the young, hungry, I'm going to go out and build something. And I gotta make a bunch of money. Like I can sell whatever, it was like one of those things. And then it turned into like, you have kids and you mature and it's like, okay, I'm going to turn this into a business. I need ownership here. I need this. I need these models coming in. I don't want to spend my time servicing shit. I don't want to be out closing deals all the time. I want to spend time. I want to wake up in the morning when I want to wake up. I want to have a slow morning, drink coffee. I want to play with my kids and turn some music on. I want to like go to the gym and like drop them off and have a nice class with my wife. I want to go home and put Gentry down, my 2-year-old, and then like Bodie can go do something. My wife and I can hang out in the middle of the day and do whatever. It's like, I want to be able to do that stuff. Hey, Austin, let's go to the lake on a Wednesday, dude. It's glass out there. Let's go ride, dude.
Been
let's
out there
go
a million
surf.
times on a Wednesday.
Dude, it's the best. I want to go snowboard when it snows, So it was really just about, for me, just making sure that all these hobbies and things that I want to do in life and travel can be accomplished without sacrificing like building a large-scale business and growing something that continues to pay me every single month that I can also sell for 40, 50x, later on down the road, exit, pay my fucking taxes, and, take that money, put it in a high-yield savings, live off some interest, invest everything else, buy some other businesses and cash flow and real estate and just continue this and continue down that path, right? So it's a matter of really, truly digging deep, figuring out what your why is before you just go into something. In the beginning, obviously, it was about money. The money is important. You got to have it. You got to grow it. But it's not just about the money. It's how are you getting it? How is it paying you? What are you doing with it? What can you do with it after? Is it taking up all your time? Is it taking up all your mental real estate? Like, that I don't want. Like, I still have my days, dude. I'll be on the beach and like I'll get a ton of phone calls and I'll be like, poor me, I'm taking phone calls from the beach. It's like, but like I don't have the days where I'm going home and I'm like I'm extremely miserable and like, what is this all for? Because as the numbers continue to get larger, which every month it's growing, right? It's like compounding with how many deals we're signing right now. It doesn't change my lifestyle any bit. It doesn't. It's like you could be making $2 million, $3 million, $4 million a month, and it's like, cool, you're going to start flying private. Maybe you're going to get but I don't, like, I can do all that stuff now. Right. So it's like, what else is there, And the number one thing I do like about growing, though, is it gives you access to different people. And I don't really care about their money so much. I appreciate what they've done. It's impressive, like building businesses and all that. But I care about, like, when you get to a different level of people, right, you're starting to expand your network. And that to me is the number one thing I love about this is like the relationship aspect. You build relationships with different people. You get to hear different stories from things. You get access to different worlds and stuff like that. And I like that part of it. But yeah, man, I don't think you have to sacrifice everything in order to grow something that will give you much more than a mediocre lifestyle. I
agree, dude. And I think a lot of it too. I mean, like I was reading between the lines too as you were talking. Like I said, I've asked so many different people the question that I just asked you, right? And I've gotten so many different answers, but you're absolutely right. The first and foremost thing that I've found, right, is that the majority of entrepreneurs, they spend their first half of their life trying to make as much money as they can. And they sacrifice everything to do so. And they spend the second half of their life spending all the money that they made to try to regain back everything that they lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you see that commonality over and over again, people who, are 40, 50 years old and they're a billionaire and their health is in the freaking dirt. Yeah. And now they're spending a ridiculous amount of money to try to regain their health back or, buy back their kids or whatever, and you see it, right? But what I read between the lines with you is you have the discipline to sit there and say, okay, I've got my whole life, right? If I want to build a big company, you said a little while ago, you're like, if I want to build a big company in 15 years from now, there'll be an opportunity.
Yeah.
And my kids will be older and I'll figure it out then.
Yeah.
And I don't need to put the pressure on myself to do it all right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay just to make what I'm making. Obviously, you make a great living and just enjoy life knowing that, hey, there's always going to be opportunity.
Yeah.
And when I'm ready to seize that opportunity in a different season of my life, then I'll rock and roll. And I think that's a lot of discipline.
It is. It's not easy because you have to write it down. You have to look at every bucket of life. If I'm going to go, like, and this happens all the time, like I will have weeks is I'm wired to move all the time. I don't sit. Like, people like to sit and watch football. I cannot stand it, dude.
Yep.
I don't do that stuff.
You and me are a lot alike.
Yeah, we are. Like, that's why I like going fast on my dirt bikes. Why I like riding mountain bikes every single day. Snowboarding, wakeboarding, surfing, whatever. My one wheel, going to the gym, taking a class. Every hour of my day until I go to bed is not spent sitting, unless I'm on a phone call or doing something like this. But I've done this in the past where I've gone really hard for a month. I was like, this month I'm going really hard. I need to grow. I need to do X, Y, and Z. And my wife understands that. But if I don't focus on that and my home life starts to take a toll because I'm working so much, then none of this stuff is going to go that well either with work, right? So it's hard to balance, dude. It's like a little graph that keeps going like this. But if you put a line across it, like it's always pretty even, where they're all staying about 80, 90, 100% full. And that means that even with work, I'm still growing at a pace that is outpacing everybody else in my industry, right?
Totally.
So I'm not sacrificing that much. I've just tried to figure out the system where it's like, what does my wife need? What do my kids need? What does the business need? What do I need? And I try to build a schedule around that to make sure that's all done so that I can grow every area without being like the Mr. Wonderful out there. Which Mr. Wonderful's like, hey, it's bullshit. Yeah. You can't build a large scale business or do anything great and have balance, right? Well, that's miserable. I don't want that, right? I still want something large, that's very big that will get me to a different place. But I truly think you can balance it out. There's going to be some times where it's not totally balanced, right? Yeah. Like you're going to have those months and some of those years too. Like, but once you figure out that system, you can stay pretty stable on it.
I believe you, yeah.
Dan Martell talks about it all the time. He's got the system dialed.
One of my final questions is, how do you find a partner in business that, well, I guess in personal life too, like a wife, or a spouse, but let's just say in business, you have a partner, right?
Yeah.
At Pay Compass. How do you find a partner that, is a good partner? Meaning, a good partner could mean so many different things, but like maybe for example with you, he's cool with you doing stuff like this, or he's cool with you like, doing what it is that you want to do and that makes you happy and all of that stuff. And you don't have somebody like breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
Like how does someone find a good business partner?
Oh, dude,
Did you just get lucky with it? I mean, I feel like I
feel like I'm really lucky with Justin. He is the person that completely changed my life. He's the one that hired me at Heartland.
Right.
When I left banking, he saw something in me that nobody else did and gave me the chance. And if he didn't give me the chance, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking about it. Wow. Right. So him and I have never fought. We are best friends, dude. We know each other's deepest, darkest secrets. Like, there's a lot of trust there, you know? So there's a ton of trust to where it's like, he was almost like the uncle that I wish I had, you know, or like kind of like another father figure in a sense that's just so wise, right? And just has already been through so many experiences. So it's really hard, you know, like I won't go into a traditional partnership with anybody for the most part. I think just from my perspective, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I know a lot of them fail because when money gets involved, you find out who that person actually is, right? And that's the reason why, like with traditional businesses, I don't really want the partnership kind of thing. But with Justin, it's a lot different because we have our roles in the company, right? And we don't step on each other at all. He's growing the company with like, you know, partnerships. I'm growing it with other top agents and bringing people in. We're both bringing in revenue, right, to the company, and we're just staying there, right? But when we hang out, it's friends, right? We talk business, smoke cigars, drink a little whiskey or something, you know, like, and it's always friendship first, you know?
Sure.
So to find a partner, I mean, I'm probably not the right person to ask for it because mine is such an anomaly.
But you found it.
I found it.
You know, you did find it, right? And I think, you know, probably going into it, you knew that it would be good. Somewhere deep down, you know, you knew the guy you were getting into business with Pay Compass, and you knew that, and, you know, it worked out the way that you thought it would work out. Just so happens you did it on the first try, where a lot of people it takes them 10 tries to figure it out, you know?
I think great leaders, too, this has something to say about him, is great leaders are very selfless.
Sure.
You know, he's agnostic. He's not Christian. I've talked about it a million times. He comes back with some crazy stuff, but you would think by meeting him, he's the most Christian-based person you've ever met in your entire life, because everything they do is people first, right? So at Pay Compass, we say agent first. That's our motto, because everything we do is centered around the agent and making them successful. That's all it is. And when we say that, and then people like this guy that I just brought over from another company who's a huge agent with another one, he came into our office and saw it firsthand and was like, there's nothing like this out there, right? Because, dude, we're all a bunch of normal people. We have all these great people in our staff that are literally there to make your job easy. Like, as lazy as you want to be, you can, right? You need to bring the business in. That's the hardest part for an agent, is figuring out how to get the business right, building that part, but everything else is taken care of. Justin is that way in his personal life, where he gives everything to his family, gives everything to his friends, and of course he lives a nice, extravagant life himself. He's traveling all the time and stuff, but he's just a very selfless person. So, I mean, I think when you're looking at a business partner, dude, you got to really look at who they are as a person, how their people in their life are surrounded, how does their wife, right? Like, talk to his wife. You talk to their spouse, you know, like, are they really happy, or can you sense there's some shit going on behind the scenes, right? And if there is, then run, you know? But, like, if their spouse is happy, their kids are happy, you know, everybody else around them seems to be happy and fulfilled, and there's trust and there's all that kind of stuff, I feel like that quality, you know, behind the scenes goes really well in business.
Totally.
You know?
Man,
Yeah, or it could be complete opposite, you know? You could have a psychopath that is, like, really good with his family, crazy with money, you know? So it's hard to tell.
It is hard to tell, but I do tend to agree, though, with you. I think that if you look at how they live their life outside of work, it's typically going to be a good indication of what type of person they're going to be in the workplace. You know, I mean, there's that old saying that we don't have business problems, we have personal problems we bring to work. Right? And I think it's so true. You know, like I tell my people that all the time. You know, if they're not performing, you know, like they say they were going to perform or whatever the case might be, I'm like, what's going on at home?
And business is personal, dude.
100%.
People say, like, separate personal from business. Oh, it's just business. I'm like, no. Business is very personal. This is their livelihood, man. And if something's going on at home, you should have such a good relationship with them to ask them what's going on. Hey, you need to go take care of some stuff? Go home and take care of it. You know, like, that's going to go far for you as a leader, or Justin as a leader, or myself as a leader, because you actually care, right? I hate that whole, like, we've gotten so corporate over the years, you know, and decades. It's just like, business is business. You got to be this prim and proper. It's like, no, the more personal you become and the more you can shine about being yourself and, like, understand all that stuff, the better relationship you're going to have with everybody at your work, and the better you're going to perform, you know, the more comfortable you're going to feel. Ira,
this is a phenomenal podcast. I feel like we could talk forever. We're going to be hanging out a lot, by the way. I'm moving right by you.
Yeah, dude, we're going to have to go out and do some surf
We have to, bro.
Yeah, you're right down the road from me, dude.
Right down the road. I mean, I drove right by your house the other day because it's on the way, because I take... When I come, you know, because when I go there, I take a different way than I come back, because you can't get on 83rd going here. You can only get on 75th.
75th, Deer Valley, all the way down.
So, but when I come this way, I get off on Beardsley and then take 83rd, you know. So I drive right by you is what I'm saying.
Yeah, nice.
And I drove through your little thing the other day. It's a pretty cool little cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we got
there's like two more they got to build, right?
Going up. Yeah, Travis is my neighbor. He's the one that's building everything back there. And then the guy who built my house originally bought all of that from the owner over there. It was a 10 parcel, half-acre lots. He lives right behind me.
Oh, no way.
And I used to go to the dunes with him all the time. So I hadn't seen him in a while, and I didn't even know anything about that house. Josh sent me the link, and he was our agent on the house too. And I was like, where did this come from? You know, there's nothing like this out here. So I scooped that thing up last March, and it was honestly the best decision ever.
Oh, for sure.
And now all the houses, like my neighbor across from me is a pitcher for the Dodgers, and then the guy catty corner to me is a life insurance guy. And the dude next to me does I don't know what, but everybody in there is super cool. It's
That's
a nice
super cool.
Spot,
I feel like North Peoria. It like we were talking a little bit before the show, and then we'll wrap up the show, but. I mean, dude, it's coming a long ways.
Big time.
You know, when
if
you say
look out there, like you have the beautiful views.
Bro.
The mountains, you got Lake Pleasant right there, Lifetime, CCV, you got everything out there. The community is amazing, and now we got restaurants coming out too.
Bourbon
I feel like
and Bones.
we got Bourbon and Bones. Spent a lot of time there, dude.
There you go,
probably too much money, but yeah, it's a cool spot, man.
Yeah.
I've looked all over the valley to buy a house. Like before we got out of our last one, bought this one. We looked at Gilbert and like East May. We looked at all over the place. Even looked in North Scottsdale and stuff. And for everything that I like, once again, understanding your why, being able to ride dirt bikes, go to the lake, or do anything outdoorsy, there wasn't anything else in Arizona like that at the price point, too. Like, my house in Arcata would be $7 million.
Oh, dude. For sure.
Out there, 1.35. You know?
Right.
Now it's more than that, but.
Yeah, of course. No, I couldn't agree more, dude. We were looking and looking and looking. And same thing, dude. Like, because I live at the Optima right now, right here.
Yeah.
And
I love the Optima, though.
I do, too, but I hate it now. I used to love it. So I've lived at the Optima for a total of 7 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
I lived at this Optima going over 3 years, and I lived at Optima Sonoran Village in Old Town for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's where my first office was. So, I mean, I literally spent my whole life at the Optima because we had 3 offices combined on the bottom floor. We were the largest industrial office space at the Optima, and I lived in like 3 different apartments, you know, throughout that building. And so it's like, dude, I'm just over it, man.
Yeah.
I freaking hate it. Like, we have a dog. She wants kids.
Yeah.
And I just now everything about the Optima pisses me off. And first world problems, right? Like, for people watching, they're like, yeah, you know, screw you, Austin. But, you know, you live in
at the Optima.
Yeah, literally, dude. But I hate it now, bro. I hate it. I cannot
Well, it's just
wait.
like anything, dude. You want to switch it up, you know? I'm actually in a position where I told my wife, I was like, when the kids are older, I'm moving to the Optima. I was like, I want to go back to a condo because, dude, we have a 4,500 square foot house, you know, on a half acre, and like there's turf and rocks, so it's not that much maintenance, but a house is a lot of work, dude.
Totally.
It's so much work, and there's additional costs that you don't even think about, and I'm like, does it even really work out in the end, you know? But where I'm at in life, I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, you know, with the kids and the family thing and dog and all that. It's like the American dream or whatever. But I like to be liquid, you know, like I like to be on the move, and we can do that at our house now, and it's a great home base. But we'll keep the house probably forever, turn it into a rental or something later on. But I don't want to buy another house.
No, I agree with you, bro. And I think, but you know, luckily though, we both live in a state primarily that houses aren't going to go down in value.
Never.
Right?
No.
I mean, dude, everybody and their mom wants to live here.
Yeah.
We see every day. I mean, look at all the look at the chip factory.
Well, I was going to say TSMC.
I mean, dude.
So I stare at that thing every
unbelievable.
time I go ride dirt bikes out there.
Crazy.
That's phase 1 of 3, dude.
Dude, if you get like even within a half a mile of that place and just look at the cars in comparison to the building.
Oh, yeah, it's insane.
I drive by sometimes, I'm like, dang.
So Pyramid Peak area.
Yeah.
So they're blowing 51st Avenue all the way to the 303 now, right? That whole area is zoned for houses.
Right.
All going to be
The
houses.
whole thing.
Then you have Alora Vita, which is right on 83rd and Happy Valley. They just built out. All of those people that bought those houses for the most part are TSMC employees. They got transplanted somewhere else. So you got to think about, there's going to be VPs. There's going to be high level people looking for places down here. Dude, MP's going up.
Way up.
Crazy, dude.
And we've got 10 more years of it going up. At minimum. You know what I mean? Like no time soon are we going to go down or stay the same.
You're buying in a good spot. Yeah, your house is dope. That house.
Yeah, we're right on Lake Pleasant and Happy Valley.
Nice.
Yeah.
Come to the Northwest, baby.
Come on.
Yeah,
we're going to start riding dirt bikes.
Let's
I got to get
baby.
another dirt bike. Ira, where can people find you?
Ira.Cornelius on Instagram and then Ira Cornelius on Facebook.
What if they want to? What if a small business owner is watching right now and they want to, do a phone call with you to see if you'd be a good fit for them? Should they go on your website, or how should they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. You can email me iracornelius@paycompass.com or call me 602-339-1575. Instagram, Facebook, email, any of those would be great.
And I'll put all that information down below as well.
Cool.
Dude,
Sounds
I
good.
appreciate you coming here, bro.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're still watching, I would greatly appreciate if you would subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below, leave a 5-star review, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.